What is up, everybody? Welcome to a Facebook Live here today. We are going to be talking about something that I am a nerd and a junkie about. Some people love, some people hate. Accountability, dependability, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, we're going to be talking about what actions actually get results. Okay. So, since we're here, if y'all will give me 30 seconds of grace to make sure I get this live stream up, just taking a quick pic here on Instagram to make sure we can send people here to the live. If you are live with us, will you please let me know in the comments? If you're watching later on YouTube or here on Facebook, please just let me know in the comments that you saw it later. Let me know your biggest takeaway. While we're here, would love to see who is here live with us. While we're doing that, I am trying to grab this link. Sweet. I see 3-4 people here live with us. What's up, y'all? Good to see you. We are going to be getting into inputs and outputs. We're going to be talking about how to actually get results today. I promise if you stay till the end, you will get some really good takeaways. All right. We're going to have some fun. This is exactly how Ben and I have engineered our business to make sure we pretty consistently have six-figure months that we love in our business. All right. So dropping this right now. Bada bing, bada boom. We are live. Guys, it's been like my new thing, I think. I've been saying bada bing, bada boom a lot. I don't know when I started. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing it, but I know it is part of me now. So, what's up, Steve? Good to see you live. Kaylee, what's up? All right, let's go ahead and kick off, y'all. So, background here. We're going to be talking about inputs and outputs. All right. We're going to be talking about what gets results. And here's what that means. All right. Before we get into this, I really want you guys to understand that certain actions actually breed results that we want. Okay. Here's an example. I'm going to start with a couple silly stories and then we'll get into some real meat here. Okay. What's up, Robert? Good to see you, man. Action number one. Let's say desired outcome. Big biceps. All right. Let's say you want big biceps like my business partner, Ben. Okay. What do you need to do to get big biceps? Well, we could get into some technicalities, but the short of it is I need to eat protein and I probably need to do some exercise. Right. So if I were to say, hey, Ajay, you need big biceps, go do a bunch of squats every day. Do you think I'm going to get very big biceps? Let me know in the chat right now. You think squats will help me get big biceps? No, exactly, right? Because it's the wrong action for the desired outcome, right? Now, on the other side, if you were to say, hey, man, do some preacher curls, I'd be like, okay, sweet. I'm going to go do some preacher curls, right? I go to the gym, I pick up some weights, and I do 3 reps. I got 3 reps of preacher curls in, and I put the weights back up and I leave. And I'm like, dude, my biceps look the same. You want to know why that is? Because we didn't do that many reps, right? And so the point is we got to be doing the right activities and we have to do enough of them that they make sense. All right. I'm going to give you another example. Okay. I did this in a training I did a few days ago for some clients of mine. So it was not streamed. But think about rolling a dice, right? If I were to tell you, hey man, you get one roll, but I need you to roll a 6. Do you think you're going to do it? Maybe, maybe not. If you're Ajay, you will, because I'm the luckiest man alive. If you're not, you probably got 1 in 6 odds like the rest of the world, right? And so the odds aren't in your favor. Might happen. You got a 1 in 6 chance of getting one, right? But what if I told you, hey, man, you've got 50 rolls to actually get a 6? Do you think you'd get a 6? The answer is probably yes, okay? Now, guys, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to hit a point, okay? I want you guys to understand we have to do the right activities and we have to do enough of them that we can get the desired outcome. At the end of the day, we are real estate investors that reach out to people that own properties and say, hey, man, can I buy your property? And if I roll the dice enough, right, if I roll the dice enough for 6 to talk to somebody who owns a property that wants to sell, that would sell at a discount with good sales process, and I am doing enough of those activities, right? And the right activities. I'm getting my preacher curls in 3 times a week at, the right weight with enough reps, and people are reviewing my form and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to get the result, right? And so today I want you guys to think through what actions breed results in the land business. Now, my focus is on acquisitions. My focus is on the sales piece and the acquisitions. And what I mean by that is I specialize in working with investors that have a bunch of leads and have a conversion problem, or just have some leads and have a conversion problem, right? Most businesses don't have a leads problem. They have a conversion problem. They get people that reach out to them and say, oh, hey, yep, I've got property owners that want to sell, but they all want above market value or they all want market value. Sweet. We turn those into deals. All right. So we're going to talk about how to make sure you turn those into deals. I'm going to be focused on 3 main areas where I see investors fail when it comes from turning their leads into deals. Okay. So the first one, this one's going to be a little bit boring, guys, but the first one, I promise the next 2 will be a little bit more exciting. The first one is going to be your pipeline, right? So like your CRM, where leads are actually coming in and like, what are you doing with those leads? Okay. And here's what I mean. If you've got 3 people on your team and a lead comes in and, you know, you're kind of looking at it and you're like, they asked for market value and they might like do this, they may not, right? Then you're going to look at this and you're going to be like, I'm not sure what to do with that. And you just let it sit. Okay. You just let it sit. Or you may think it's somebody else's responsibility or things get clogged, right? So the point here being that basically we have to make sure there are clear outcomes at every single stage in the pipeline. Hey, I need 1, 2, and 3 checked off, and then it goes to this person or to this activity. If you don't, I promise you have leads in your pipeline that are not getting to the finish line. All right, that's piece number 1. So I want you to go into your pipeline. If you've got leads that are sitting in a column that are basically like we don't know what to do with those, it tells me you've got a messy pipeline. You need to get in there. You need to work on your sales process, and we need to really get some stuff clear. We'll talk about sales process a little bit later, okay? Number 2 is your actual metrics, right? What activities are you doing? How many of them are you doing? And are you doing them right? But like, hey, what's our metrics look like? And so how that looks is if I'm focused on acquisitions, if I've got leads coming in, we basically focus on a main 5 in the inner circle, right? That's my private community where we do sales training for land investors. Number 1 is going to be gross leads. How many leads do I have hitting my pipeline? If I've got leads that are coming in, and let's say I'm getting 3 leads a week, that's just not a lot of work that I can do. I'm only rolling my die 3 times. I may or may not get a 6. I need more, right? In terms of minimums, like if you're trying to get at least a deal a month, I want to see that an investor is getting at least about 30 leads every single month, right? At a minimum. If you're trying to get 2 contracts a week, I always say you probably need 40 or 50 leads a week. You want to be able to make about 20 to 25 offers, which we'll get into in a second, right? So we got our gross leads. Then we got our net leads, which I like to say those are the leads you can do business with. Okay. So those are the leads we've connected with and we've qualified the person and verified they do want to sell their property and they are the owner. And number 2, these are leads that we can do business with the property, meaning I've done due diligence on the property and verified, yeah, I would buy this property, right? We get leads in our pipeline that maybe have terrible road access or floodplains or wetlands. I don't want to do business with those, right? So disqualified, you'll see a delta between your gross leads and your net leads. From your net leads, I need you to track how many actual offers do you make to property owners on the phone, okay? So that is, hey, Jeff, I'd like to give you, $25,000 for your property or whatever that sounds like. And we can talk about scripting a little bit later. But the point here being, how many property owners are you talking to every week where you are actually hitting them with, hey, man, I'd like to give you X amount of money for your property, right? The reality is it's always less than you think because so many investors get caught up in being busy every single week, right? So many people get caught up in being busy. And being busy does not mean you're being productive. Making offers is going to get you closer to doing deals. So I like to think back, there's the scripture in the Bible, ask and you shall receive, right? Now, obviously, a piece of that is from God if you're a Christian. If not, no worries, I still love you, right? But the point being, ask and you shall receive. I think that also is of the world, guys. And this is why sales is so important. If you don't go for your ask, if you don't say, hey, Mr. or Mrs., can I give you this money for your property? The answer is already no. So you might as well ask. And if you ask enough times, you will receive deals. That's the reality, right? And to paint an extreme picture, if I told you, hey, man, this month I'm going to make 1,000 offers in my business, do you think some people will say yes? Absolutely. So if you're not getting the deal flow that you want, there's a good chance you're just not making the offers that you need to be making, right? Now, after your offers, I want to see verbal acceptances. How many people tell you yes? If there's a delta there that you don't like, right? Let's say you have a close rate of under 10%. there's a good chance we need to work on some sales training, right? Which is what we'll talk about in bucket 3, which is your actual scripting and sales training, right? But so we've got gross leads, net leads, offers, verbal acceptances, and then we have signed contracts, right? And generally speaking, like you got to see regular signed contracts because the reality is not all of those become deals, right? So many people equate contracts to deals, and that's just not the reality. I see for every 8 contracts you get signed, about 5 make it to the finish line. Some investors do a little better, some investors do a little worse. Okay, that's the rough numbers that I see in terms of like signed contracts to deals done. Is for every 5 we sign, 8 actually get done. Okay, so you can imagine if you're here and you're gunning for 6-figure months regularly, if you're saying, hey, I want to go for 6-figure months, I recommend a minimum of 2 contracts getting signed every week. And I find that most full-time acquisition managers can hit that. And if you really want to make sure you're doing better than that, then hey, you've got to basically have 2 acquisition managers, and each one of them needs to be able to make 25 offers a week. And if you're not doing that at a baseline, do not complain to me that you're not hitting 6-figure months, because you're just not doing the work to get the results. Okay, those are the inputs that are going to actually drive the results to what you need to get this across the finish line. So that's piece number 1, pipeline. Guys, you got to have a clean pipeline. I didn't talk about it for very long because it's really boring and most people don't, right? People don't like talking about it. Number 2 is your actual numbers, right? Now, there's a piece here of tracking. If you're not tracking, I've got a free KPI tracker in my school community in Land Closers Academy in there, right? It is free. I've got free scripts. I've got free trackers. You have no excuse for not tracking that at least manually daily. Don't get worried about automations. 0 to 1, get those tracked. Okay, what is tracked is managed. Piece number 2 is every Monday we have, accountability both in my private, community, the Land Closers Academy Inner Circle, and then also amongst my team. On Mondays, there's a ping in a channel called Know Your Numbers across both channels, where everybody is dropping their metrics. And the reason for that is 2 things. Number 1, you can kind of compare to see, hey, what is my benchmarks against everybody else, But number 2, it forces you to look at the work you did last week. Because I don't care how busy you were. If you did not work on these activities, if you did not do your preacher curls, you're not going to get big biceps. Okay, so I need you to be doing the right activities if your goal is more deal flow. Let me know in the comments, would you guys like to close more deals this year? If the answer is yes, these are the activities you need to focus on. I didn't see anybody put a yes in the chat, so I'd love to see a couple yeses in the chat. If you want to close more deals this year, please put a yes in the chat, right? Let's manifest some more deals this year. Give me a yes, all right? Piece number 3 is going to be scripting. Robert said, yes, sir. Robert, I hope you get more deals than you can handle this year, my friend. Let's go, all right? So scripting, this is where we're focused on saying the right things to our sellers, right? I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples. Obviously, I have taught relentlessly about my scripting, my sales process, and I'm going to teach it more, and I'm going to get better at it as time goes on. And I'm going to review hundreds more calls of land investors and get better and be sure I stay up to date on what things sound like, right? And so a common conversation we have with our sellers is we call them and we ask, hey, Steve, let me ask, man, why are you interested in selling your property? And he says something to the effect of, well, I never said I wanted to sell my property. You guys called me, right? So here's an example of how good scripting can really change a conversation and help you get your desired outcome, right? I'm going to call Steve and I'm going to say, hey, Steve, let me ask, man, I know we're the ones that reached out to you, but before we called, did you and your wife have any interest in selling your property? And you say, yeah, we've been thinking about it for a couple months. Okay. So have you guys had a conversation about what you would sell it for? Yeah, we have. Got it. Would you mind sharing that with me? That's very different than like, what's your motivation? What's going on? Why do you want to sell? People are naturally going to give you information if you can build a natural conversation. So something we talk about in the inner circle frequently is, hey, what's the difference between a forced conversation versus a natural one? A forced one where I'm like, hey, Steve, what do you want for the property? Why do you want to sell? Why are you interested in selling, right? It's a very different conversation. So that's just one example of how scripting can really make a difference. Another one, which we see super often that people love, is in the actual offer, right? Which is where we talk about shifting blame. And I have 3 core pillars in when I make my offer in shifting blame, right? So the first piece is that shifting blame where I say, hey, Steve, I'm seeing other investors in the area are paying between X and Y range. What would you say to one of those investors if they made an offer like that? Piece number 1 is shifting blame. I'm seeing other investors in the area are blah, 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 right? That's piece number 1 of making your first offer. Piece number 2 is that range, okay? Let's be honest, guys, in our business, we're in the business of making lowball offers, which means typically our first offer is insulting. I don't care how you feel about that. It's your reality. Anytime somebody says yes to your first offer, congrats, you left money on the table, okay? So the goal with my first offer is you're probably going to make the offer between 35 and 55% of market value. Maybe you're aggressive and you go higher, kudos to you. We don't do that, all right? And so if I'm going to do that, I'm going to put a range in front of them to get feedback. That's my goal with the range, is I want feedback from my seller on the positive side, and on the negative side, I'm trying to avoid a hang up. Okay. So I'll have you know, if you go through my scripting, a big thing that I did in the engineering is I looked for all the failure points in a conversation. I said, where does a conversation fail? Well, it's when they hang up on us, when the energy changes, when they hit us with these objections. And so what I did is I engineered it so those don't happen. And when you kill all the negatives, the positives tend to happen more frequently, right? You can make more offers if people don't hang up on you, right? So anyways, that's piece number 2 of making the offer. And then piece number 3 is the question, because we know in sales, whoever's asking the questions is the one who's in control of the conversation. So I start off with, hey, I'm seeing investors in the area are paying between X and Y, right? X and Y is that range piece. That's the second piece. And the third one's the question. What would you say if an investor made an offer like that? Now, what I'm doing is I'm forcing them to respond what they would say. And sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, I am seeing this and that, right? Guys, ask your question again. Don't be afraid to ask a question a second time. Your goal with the script is to drive a process. So I need to make sure my seller sticks to the process, and I got to be a good salesperson to get that out of them, right? Now, there's tons more. I could talk for 3.5 hours about scripting and how to have a good conversation with people, about different elements of pulling motivation out of people, about how to take conversations deeper. But unfortunately, I have a 30-minute break today that starts in 10 minutes to eat lunch before I've got 5.5 hours of calls. So we're not doing that today. I love talking about scripting, so that stuff's super fun. The last thing I'll say here, y'all, that I didn't really talk about during the pipeline piece is your actual sales process. And when I say sales process, here's an example, right? A lead comes in today. How many times do I hit it today? Do I single dial, double dial, triple dial? Which phone numbers do I use? Who's responsible for calling them? Hey, we had a conversation. In call number 1, what's our desired outcome? I can tell you, if you're following my process, desired outcome for a lead manager is 2 main outcomes. The first one is a booked appointment for your closing appointment, right? Whether that's with you or another closer. If you can one call close, great, kudos to you. Great job comping the property. If you can't, you set another appointment, right? Outcome number 2 is an asking price out of your seller. I do not need a lead manager to negotiate, but if they can get an asking price out of your seller, we're going to get some momentum, right? It's going to give me ammunition in my closing phone call when I have that info. So that's piece number 2, all right? In terms of sales processes, my lead managers got outcomes. Those are 2 outcomes of that call. Is that part of your sales process? My sales process desired outcomes for an acquisition manager call. Again, 2 main pieces. You know what I want is either a booked appointment or a signed contract. That's pretty much it, right? Or I guess I close out the lead, but that's not a desired outcome. My desired outcome is a signed contract. If it's not going to end there, close out the lead, we're done, okay? But what are you doing after you get a verbal? How soon do you send out the PA? What do you do if somebody says they need it in paper? Personally, I try to get a mobile notary to them, right? It's going to remove friction. And you might ask, Ajay, does that sound pushy? Guys, I was doing a call review with some clients of mine yesterday, and they asked me that question. And I said, hey, it's only a big deal if you make it a big deal. Okay. So great example. Kid falls over, 2-year-old kid falls over. What does he do? He looks up at his parents. If the parents are like, oh my gosh, buddy, are you okay? Boom, kid starts crying, right? Versus a, hey, buddy, you're good. Come on, let's go, right? He's not crying. He's getting up. He's rolling. In the same sense, our sellers are like children. We need to tell them how they need to feel, right? And I'd say, hey, Jason, glad you're here, my friend. But I'd say, hey, Jason, just so you know, typically at this step in the process, when somebody wants something in writing, what we do is we actually send out a mobile notary to your house. That way, we make sure it gets there, right? It makes sure there's no miscommunication. And, they're able to answer any questions. And if they can't, we just get back on the phone while they're there with you and walk through any questions you might have to make sure you're not signing anything you're not comfortable with, right? So can I ask, what's the best time to get a mobile notary out to your house? Right? Boom. See, we're in there. It's not a big deal. So that's an example of good sales process, good pipeline management, right? We talked about pipeline management. We talked about KPIs. We got to make sure we have accountability to our KPIs and we're looking at them. It's one thing to track them. It's another to use them, right? And then we talked about good scripting. Guys, if you focus on those 3 things, I can promise you, you will get more deals. I have taken some clients from 2 deals a month to 8 deals a month with no extra lead generation just through focusing on those 3 pillars, all right? So With that, I got a couple of minutes here before I got to jump, but would love to see, does anybody have any questions on anything I talked about? I tried to keep this to a 20-minute lesson today because sometimes I'll talk for an hour. So I just wanted to hit you guys with some hardcore value. No sales pitch, no nothing crazy here. Just want to see if y'all have any questions. Let's see. I'm not seeing any questions right now. I see 14 of you here live with us. If you're on YouTube on the replay, you are more than welcome to drop it in here. And if I see it, I will do my best to come back. I'll give it just another minute to see if any questions come in. Mary, good to see you. Steve, good to see you. Dave, what's up, dude? Jason, man, love that you're here. All right, y'all. I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and call it. But thanks, everybody, for attending. Appreciate you giving me 20 minutes of your Friday. If this was valuable, please let me know in the chat. Now that I'm back from Asia, we're back on the lives at least weekly. So I'm doing a better job of getting this stuff scheduled and ready to go. Next week, my good friend Seth Williams is going to come on. Him and Mike Balcom are going to show us about their new CRM Stride. So we're gonna stream this thing. It'll be a lot of fun. But Robert said, long story short, I used some of your tips you drive home, specifically keeping them on the phone, re-asking the question, keep seller on the phone. We are about to be under contract to start the rezoning process. He was ready to get off the phone. Sweet, man. I love it. Love to hear it. Love your ideas. Any more details on scripting? Matt, we'll get really deep on scripting another time, man. I love going deep on scripting. Short answer is check out the free school if you haven't already, Land Closers Academy. There's tons of good stuff in there on scripting. I have a 40-minute video where I break down my entire 7-page script, including how to eliminate and overcome any objections, right? So feel free to check that out. Again, a lot of people use that when scaling up to 8 contracts a month per full-time closer. So check that out. Thanks, bro. You got it, Steve. All right, guys, appreciate y'all. Have a great weekend. Get some rest. I'm going to really take this weekend to rest after a bunch of jet lag. And I love my family, and they were in town for some Easter, and so I'm going to get some good rest after that. But if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. I'll try to monitor this later. But thanks so much for coming out. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.